So I'll take up where I left off. I spoke in the last video about some serious issues with Waterford Council and its multiple failures in their efforts to even acknowledge the wrongdoing by certain members employed by them. I've sent many letters to Waterford Council, most notably to CEO Michael Walsh. The reason I bring this up is that Mr. Walsh is very aware of the ongoing issue in Waterford Council. He's basically turning a blind eye. I've actually sent in documents as well, so he's aware of what's going on, and I want to start making people aware of which people or which persons higher up are aware of other people's actions and their failure to address it. Much of the same approach has been made by Sinn Féin. As we know, this is not new. They only ever respond realistically when it's to attack the opposition. There seems to be no accountability ever within the party. It's no coincidence that what I allege and the conduct of those linked to this have all links to Sinn Féin. This is no coincidence. Sinn Féin as a party is well aware of the actions of some of its members in Waterford, most notably Mr. David Cullinane, who, as we know now, is basically trying to make my wife look like a liar, and I'm not tolerating that. Your wife is not tolerating that. Why should my wife be made look like a liar to cover up the lies of Mr. Cullinane and his cronies? We saw how my wife appeared on a video recently. She wasn't happy that she was going to be made look like a liar to hide the actions of Mr. Cullinane. We saw how my wife appeared on the end of the video there, 1 or 2 videos ago. She wanted to have her own say regarding this whole friend request, which came from Mr. Cullinane's website, despite him now trying to portray that it was a fake website. This is all bullshit. This is 100% real. I'm not going to keep going into that, but Sinn Féin should have dealt with that, if I'm being honest with you. But there's other issues that Sinn Féin should have dealt with regarding Mr. Cullinane. And I'll be uploading emails, as I said, and I just want to show how emails were passed back to him by Mr. Henry Halligan, Ballybeg Church. And basically the emails speak for themselves. There's numerous misconduct by members of Sinn Féin. Even though it's not arguing any other party. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't even arguing with Sinn Féin. I had an issue with Mr. Cullinane and some cronies, and they ran back and hid behind the party. We all know this. Everyone in Waterford knows this to be true. And now the portrayal to try and make my wife look like a liar and make me look like a liar to protect ye who's lying. I draw the line with that. And there's other issues that Mr. Cullinane don't want to get out, like the emails that were handed back to him by Mr. Henry Halligan that were illegally downloaded from Ballybeg Church, where he was the church secretary, and passed back to Mr. Cullinane, because what was in the emails, I spoke of Mr. Cullinane, and the best approach with that is to just put up the actual emails that was sent, and that kind of that cuts through a lot of the shit, which is what I'm going to do when the time comes to it. When I'm trying to follow a timeline here, so when I get to that, I will do that. I'm sure now after saying that, I'll have to tolerate all kinds of other shit until I get to that point, but I'm tolerating it anyway, so. The abuse of political power and cronyism should be an issue within the party. Is this normal? They can pass this off as some kind of patriotism all they want. This is criminality and it's cronyism, and it's nothing more in an attempt to discredit me and my wife, to hide the actions of those two-faced liars in an effort to make us look like liars. Desperate to hide not only the actions around me and the situation, but the favouritism that was shown to certain people within Waterford, supposed pillars of the community. I won't even say it on that subject, but people don't want to be linked to certain people in Waterford. And people have a right to know, the public have a right to know who's linked to these people and who's been pulling the strings for these people. Personally, that's what I think. Mr. Cullinane and his cronies who are dealing with my ex, using and abusing the political network of Sinn Féin to save their own neck. Sinn Féin as a party should have an issue with that. I've said it once and I've said it a million times, I'm open to any honest investigation. At any point, Sinn Féin can address the glorified criminality that surrounds these cronies of Mr. Cullinane and his glorified bullshit that he's trying to spread, basically saying it was a fake profile. It's not a fake profile, it's 100% it's a real profile. I said this already. I'm not going to stop saying this just because I'm being harassed by like a certain group of morons connected to him. Like, I'd have no reason to kind of suddenly just pick Mr. Cullen out of the blue and create an argument, would I? My wife wouldn't. Whereas they do have a motive to try and cover up their actions. And if Sinn Féin were to like address the misconduct of some of their members, realistically, I wouldn't have anything to say about Sinn Féin. Why would I? Like if they dealt with like some of the kind of misconduct that has gone on in the party and their drive to harass not just me, but there's other incidents in Waterford. I won't go too far into it, but certain people wanted to make certain kind of complaints, and kind of this whole people using the IRA and Sinn Féin as a threat. That should be established whether or not, if these people are abusing the name and trying to intimidate people who have the right to come forward and speak about certain topics. And speaking on an honest investigation, I put up a letter there a couple of weeks ago where I was apparently reported for shouting abuse out of my car up in Ballybricken. It was all lies, more or less trying to impede me, more or less trying to kind of gaslight me and make me feel kind of spooked, basically. On the same day, one of these so-called pillars of the community, desperate, tried to provoke me. This has gone on a while. A lot of you know this, but he's taken to waving at me wife. Local person involved in how do I say this? This person would be involved in one of the families that I'm trying to draw light to regarding corruption and stuff. So he's trying to provoke me, and he was waving at me wife and kind of like shouting at the car and like passing and stuff. He was taking to kind of like when I'd passed with my wife, he was waving at me wife and stuff, trying to provoke me. This is going on a couple of weeks, following me in and out of the hospital there a couple of weeks ago. They're desperate basically to try and provoke me. I wanted the details of this person who had rang up. The guard rang up and said his name is Garda O'Keefe, that he got a phone call, reported this alleged incident. He couldn't say who rang up, what I had said, and I had to squeeze out of him basically that this apparently happened in Ballybricken. And when I started questioning it, then he got all kind of jittery and he hung up. I wrote to the superintendent for the details because I'm trying to keep track of all these kind of incidents and kind of keep a file around them. Then for a couple of weeks, they couldn't be found. This incident couldn't be found anywhere on the system. So for a couple of weeks, this couldn't be found on the system. And now this is the Waterford Garda that I'm dealing with for years, right? I was told then on Thursday, the 9th of March, 2 Gardaes called down to my house. And they told me that they couldn't find any record of this. And not only that, but there was no Garda O'Keefe. Alright? Now I have the call register on my phone, and the phone number that I got, I googled it, and it goes back to Waterford Garda station. But then Friday morning, then today is Sunday the 11th or 12th of March, but Friday morning I put up a post on social media on Facebook talking about there's no Garda O'Keefe, that they can't find this incident, and by Friday evening they were all of a sudden able to find this incident. And he rang me up and he said that it was a letter that was handed in. He didn't say anything about who this Garda O'Keefe was, or like that there was no such person, a Garda O'Keefe. He didn't explain this whatsoever. First of all, the person that rang up said it was a phone call. There was no mention of any letter. So that's like someone is lying. Either he's lying now or the previous person was lying. And I would have liked an explanation on like who this person was that rang up pretending to be a Garda O'Keefe when there's no Garda O'Keefe. I'd like an explanation on this. And I'm supposed to believe now on the same day that I put this up on social media, after weeks of it not being found, it was all of a sudden found. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with more or less on a daily basis with Waterford Garda. Like, he rang me up Friday night and I was trying to get the child to sleep, so I couldn't really speak on the phone if I'm being honest with you. But after I hung up, then I was thinking about that he found it. It was a letter handed in. I've requested the incident number in a letter, and I've requested it when it was put onto the pulse system. And I guarantee you now they'll say that the letter was anonymous, that it never went onto the pulse system, and there's no incident ID. So I'll keep you updated on that. So essentially what you have, if you have someone from Waterford Garda station using the property up there in an effort to try and harass and intimidate me. As we know, there are now 2 weeks ago now. There was an issue regarding my GDPR rights being breached. This letter was opened. The letter itself was squeezed out of another envelope, pulled out of the corner of it, read, obviously pushed back into the envelope, and then placed into another envelope and posted down to me. Now, the other envelope it was posted into, they're only issued by Waterford Garda. So this was done up Waterford Garda, and not to mention there's another 1 or 2 issues regarding that I can prove that it came from Waterford Garda. I won't go into it because they'll just cover their arse, to be honest with you. But it shows the corruption and the collusion that every time I try and deal with Waterford Garda, that this is what I'm met with. Like, I'm supposed to trust these people. They can't even post a letter to you without the thing being opened and thrown into another envelope, and the more I bring light to this there now, I have the Gardaí driving around my apartment. I know this probably sounds weird, and I'm not sitting down counting all this, by the way. My camera picks up this kind of stuff, and sometimes you notice it's a bit irregular. Like a couple of days ago when I brought this up, the Gardaí passed my apartment 44 times with the sirens blaring. Now, I'd like to know if there was incidents reported that would have kind of justified them driving past my apartment 44 times, and they don't fly past the apartment, they only pass for like 2-3 seconds, turn on the sirens, and kind of like, it's basically trying to harass me basically. But if you say it now, they'll say oh, we're just trying to kind of scare people away who's potentially a threat to. Like, I don't need any kind of like protection from any Guardian. I've never requested any protection from Gardaí, so it's not more than harassment in an effort to stop someone looking into all of this. Like, when you go back to all the stuff that I've spoken about regarding Waterford Garda and the amount of stuff now that there's issues with, that can be proven, that there's a paper trail. And this goes for like tussling and all other issues, like all of this stuff. Like, I've only ever spoken about stuff that has paper trails, because realistically there's no point talking about stuff if there's no paper trail. So like, they basically dropped the ball here big time again. They breached the privacy of the letter that was about breaching privacy. Unbelievable. But it's the same issue with Waterford Garda, as I just said with Sinn Féin. Like, if they dealt with the misconduct on their side, like, I wouldn't be moaning about Waterford Garda, I wouldn't be complaining about Sinn Féin. Like, these people dealt in the correct manner with the misconduct that's going on within their own organisations, I wouldn't keep complaining. I'd only be complaining if there's issues to complain about. The whole mentality of it, we'll simply ignore them. That way, kind of, if we don't take his complaint and ignore him, we don't have to look into it. Now, they know what I'm trying to offer. That's why they won't take the complaint, because if they took the complaint, it would open a whole tin of worms. This goes for Sinn Féin, this goes for Waterford Council. They know, because the documents that they removed from certain files, they know I managed to get back on Google Cloud, so they know what I'm going to offer. So by not taking this, they don't have to investigate, and they'll just continue the whole kind of campaign of harassment. As we know what's going on there now, the last 2-3 weeks that they've been spreading for people not to come and get tattoos off me in an effort. The reason what this is, it's not really about not coming to get tattoos. They're trying to financially starve me out and hope that I miss the rent and I lose the home. That's basically what they're trying to do. But I seen this kind of a long time ago, and I've only ever tattooed anyway people that I kind of like and people that are friends, and kind of too many like untrustworthy kind of two-faced backstabbers in Waterford. And this is not a dig at anyone in particular. I'm just saying it like it is. Do you know what I mean? And if it was any other way, things wouldn't be like this in Waterford. I'm deemed the bad guy because I'm willing to talk about this kind of stuff where everybody else will whisper about it. Like, this was all put together by this psychologist of the HSE. I've spoken about this person already before in previous videos, so I don't want to go on about it too much. But her husband told me how she treats everybody's life as one big game of chess. Like, she would love this to her now is her cup of tea now altogether, directing all this from afar, knowing that she can't be held accountable. But even with that, there's paperwork and documents that Tussle have now apparently sealed, and they won't let people at. But there should be an ombudsman or something that can pull these documents and show me to be a liar. But if they try and show me to be a liar, what will happen is they'll discover the truth and they'll investigate the whole lot. And they don't want that, because all these people losing their jobs and their reputation, and it'll undermine the whole kind of workings of the system. It's easier to harass me and my family because we're simply collateral damage. And the only problem there is, like, I'm not willing to just accept this, whether it's off of Sinn Féin, Waterford Garda, Waterford Council, Tussle. I don't really care. Another thing I want to bring up, the actions of Mr. Henry Halligan at Ballybeg Church. I spoke about this, how not only did he try and intervene in my mother's funeral to try and cover his actions, and he didn't want my family mixing with the priest who was a family friend, because he printed off these emails which I spoke of earlier and passed them back to Mr. David Conlan. And as I said regarding that whole thing, I'll just upload the emails when I get to it in the timeline, because it saves a whole lot of explanation. But yet again, this goes back to Sinn Féin. The people in Waterford Council I spoke to in the video, they're sympathisers and members of Sinn Féin. So again, that goes back to Sinn Féin. Do you know what I mean? My argument with Mr. Conlan, as we know, goes back to Sinn Féin. There seems to be a running team here of people running back to Sinn Féin, thinking that they can harass and bully, do you know what I mean, at will. This is not about patriotism. I don't have any issue with Sinn Féin. This is not more than criminality and an attempt to cover up what's gone on. And after I finish explaining all of this, not just this video, but the whole lot of the explanation, I'm going to write to Sinn Féin, and I'm going to write to Miss Mary Lou MacDonald, and I'd like to know, is the approach of dealing with this and what I bring up is to harass my family and others to suppress what they claim? Like, is this really the view of the party in dealing with corruption? I also wrote how an incident 2 weeks ago regarding a family member of a certain family confronted myself, my wife and my daughter in our car up by Barrack Street. Now this is all on camera. His threats to me, telling me no one liked me. Like, my heart broke at this news that nobody likes me. Do you know what I mean? We don't all seek validation. Maybe I should have warned my way into a charity and attached my name to it. Do you know what I mean? Like certain people and certain families have done, like basically attached their names to charities all over Waterford, craving the validation and the social stature then from being included with these charities. And all these people linked to certain other people should all be called out and investigated, and we will see will that happen. But this person, he mentioned me ex, but what he spoke about in the comments that he threw at me about me ex, I was after speaking about in a private message to my brother. I've been speaking about how she's been appearing on podcasts and she basically slandered me. And these were private messages that I was speaking. These were private messages that I was swapping with my brother, talking about this. So by him saying this, because he turned word for word, and I showed that he's just been reading me private messages. This person also felt the need to bring up Children's Group Link. Now, I never mentioned Children's Group Link. I never mentioned this in any capacity. But he felt the need to try and pass a message through me, a threatening message, tying himself and his family and Children's Group Link to a certain incident. I won't get into the incident or the topic because it's really not my place. But like this clown felt the need to bring this up and throw stuff at me. So that leaves the question why he would feel the need to throw this at me in an effort to try and provoke me. My wife is still waiting to make a statement. That was almost 2 weeks ago. I went up, made a statement. My wife went up at the same time. They said there was time issues. They spoke to my wife for half an hour though, but they said they didn't have the time to actually write down a statement, even though they were talking to her. So I'm not really sure what happened, but I'm sure when it's presented, if it's just my statement and his statement, it'll be just his word against mine. And I'd imagine that could be the approach. So I like my wife to give her statement, what she wants to give. So I'll keep you updated on that scenario. But judging by the past and Waterford Garda and their kind of misconduct, it'll be interesting to see what way this is dealt with. Now, regarding my ex and her doing the rounds of the media, pushing her new hair business with her support of Tussle, which she constantly mentions all the time, which, as I said previously, she's now going into tattooing. Now, this is no coincidence. This is just anything I have in life that she has to try and destroy. We all know what in Waterford socially, what she's done to me character. She destroyed my relationship with my daughter. She tried to destroy my wedding. She tried to destroy my relationship with my wife. She tried to destroy the relationship with my in-laws, sending safety orders needlessly to their house. But there's so many issues regarding this person, and in time I'm going to talk about them. Like, I'll address this person pretty soon. It's not a tit-for-tat breakup. I'm married, I've moved on. This woman is obsessed with destroying my life. Anyone I love is at risk. Anything that might further my development, while she's on podcasts talking about development and recovery. You know what I mean? She's going out of her way to destroy someone's life. And I feel that should be called out. And I feel the podcast has given her a platform, while on one hand talking about recovery and development and all this, that gave her this platform to kind of like basically slander off her ex. I believe should be called out. She's put out a narrative that she was in an abusive relationship. Like, that's completely false. She wasn't even around to be in an abusive relationship, and that is no word of lie. And people out in Tranmore will know that she wasn't around, that she was constantly off cutting her hair, and I was around both the kids, and like, that's not me bragging or anything, it's just the way it was. But as I said, this person is such a narcissistic person. She'll stop at nothing until she destroys my life, and I couldn't deal with that, if I'm being honest with you. But like, she's focusing on people around me, like, and like my mother even being sick. There's not enough limits to this person. She's put out lots of stuff into the media, in interviews, in articles, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show her to be the liar that she is. And I think like Tussle backing this person and promoting her some kind of role model have a lot of questions that they need answering. And she has got backing of Tussle and a psychologist from Waterford, which for years I've been trying to bring attention to, and she needs investigating, but they won't let anyone hear the paperwork of what I'm alleging, because basically what I am alleging will be seen to be true. She constantly plugs how she's been supported by Tussle in her new kind of like hair venture. And there's numerous documentations, as I said, that can be pulled and can show her to be the lawyer that she is. And I'll get to that in due time. I'm just waiting on kind of legal response for something. And if they pull that paperwork that I'm talking about, that would open such a like can of worms. It would absolutely rock the system. It would have the legal system. It would rock kind of Tussle, Waterford Garda. Then we have like the cronies of Sinn Féin, desperate to hide the actions of David Connan and his cronies. Like, it suits Sinn Féin, it suits Waterford Garda, it suits Tussle, it suits Waterford Council to support this lawyer, or as she calls herself, the master manipulator. But as I said, the parties that I just mentioned, they have their own agenda, because they like basically dropped the ball multiple times through the years of this. And it's not just me saying it, I'm offering documents, I'm offering support. They won't take the documents. That's the kind of grey area I'm in. Like, they're basically just trying to ignore me. And this is going on up and down kind of the country. But I'll keep pushing. They basically made a major like fuck up, spreading this sexual slander on behalf of her. And when they decided to let's just like go to the guards with all this, it was all eventually traced back, and they noticed it was all traced back to her. Like, the weekends that she dropped the kids down, all 3 times, this all blew up 3 days after she collected the kids on the Sunday, after dropping them down on the Friday. There was one time in between that where I changed the location, and there was no drama, no nothing. I went somewhere else with the kids, and because she didn't know where it was, there was no drama. And all other 3 times, as I've spoken about this, these people don't know each other, and the only thing they have in common is they had contact with her. I've spoken about some of the actions of this woman, and how my kids, my parents, my character, my fundamental right to be left alone, as with my family, is all opportunities for this narcissistic person to cause pain for my family. Her being put forward by Tussle as some kind of role model, I seriously have an issue with. And it's not a tit for tat thing, as I just said, there's multiple issues. Number one, she's misleading people, fabricating her past and her present. Number two, her true actions. should be out with, and they should be known, especially in the family courts, of how dangerous people like this are and what men really have to deal with. Number 3, clarification regarding certain points that she's putting out into the public and into the media needs to be once and for all addressed. And basically, if she's telling the truth, it will actually just like further her career and further her credibility. But if she's deemed to be a liar, I believe other actions regarding that she's had input with should be investigated. I will address this. As I said, she has the backing of Tussle and their platform, not to mention Sinn Féin, Waterford Garda. So to say I'm up against it would be putting it mildly. Her implication on a podcast in, I think it was October, told you I got an underhanded apology from the two Norries in an email sent, while she got to spread all her shite through various platforms and various other podcasts, like all share this kind of stuff. And like, to be honest with you, I felt she was kind of egged on this kind of podcast. Like, they talk about mindfulness and recovery. Like what was the mindfulness when you're talking about like mentioning my daughter's name and you're talking about me and my past? I didn't get permission for my past to be spoken about. Not to mention the fact that you're lying about like the 90% of what you're saying is lying. Like, you're lying about your own past, you're lying against your own present, you even throwing your own parents under the bus. Do you know what I mean? To try and glorify your own story. Sickening. And I reached a point with this person, like I'm like 9 years I'm dealing with this person. As I said, I'm married, I've moved on. And what's after happening is that she spread all this kind of sexual literature, as we all know this in Waterford. And what happened is too many people were all too keen to run with this and spread it from A to B to C. And what's after happening, it got so out of hand and it's become so big that it can't really be dealt with. Now, this was all done by this psychologist out in Tramore. This is a fact, because she needs to cover up her previous engagement with myself and my family, because if that was looked into, as I said, the shit would hit the fan and it would show Tussle to be after covering up for her. It shows her covering up for Tussle, and it creates a whole chain reaction. And then we have the multiple mess ups by Waterford Garda and Sinn Féin. And I hate even saying Sinn Féin because like I'm kind of generalising the whole party. Like, my issue was always with Mr. Cunnan and his cronies. And Mr. Cunnan, in my opinion, is nothing but a liar and a hypocrite. Do you know what I mean? And you can hide behind your like Sinn Féin party and your like platform that they have. But unlike you, I don't seek validation from any of these people. So I'm going to say it the way it is. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And the majority of people, you'll all tiptoe around kind of like certain people. Basically, my ex now has the backing of Tussle, Sinn Féin, Waterford Garda, Waterford Council, Dublin Council. And because they've made such a major fuck up, basically, they have no choice but to support her. So it's time once and for all someone started pointing out some of this woman's lies. Sinn Féin, thanks to Mr. Cunnan and his cronies, Waterford Garda, that corrupt solicitor that I had in Waterford, Tussle, Waterford Council, Dublin Council, I have to deal with all of these. Do you know what I mean? When you think about this and why she's given a platform to spin her lies. Like, where's the objective view of that? Like, where's the two sides of the story? Because there's only one of us being suppressed and one of us being promoted. I'm sure now she'll be viewing this, and I'm sure, because the majority of people only view these videos, if I'm being honest with you, are people that have interest because they're involved in the corruption and the cronyism of this, and they just want to know what I'm saying. There's very little support in Waterford. This seems to be a Waterford thing, if I'm being honest with you. Certain members involved in this, like, they're desperate to try and keep a lid on this, because as I said, it'll jeopardize their careers and their reputations, and like, it'll show how badly the system needs to be shaken up, if I'm being honest with you. Corruption, collusion and cronyism is playing a major part in this. Not to mention then, for a long time I was surrounded by cowards, if I'm being honest with you. I want to say like it is, whether they like it or they don't like it, I don't care. Like, this is not political, it's only criminality. And the criminality that is involved, it's not by me, it's on the other side. And it's what I'm trying to call out. I was informed recently, right, that I could have left any time. That I kind of had myself to blame for this. Can you believe that? That I could have left, rather than stand my ground, right, because I'm telling the truth, that I could have left. Like, what kind of approach to this? Like, are people being advised, like, that it's so corrupt that you can't deal with it and you have to, like, run away with your tail between your legs? I don't know. Maybe that's for some people, but it's not for me. I'm being honest with you. It may be the wrong choice, but it's the choice that I've committed to, so it is what it is. The assumption that they can all stick together, corrupt hand in hand, seems to be very much the kind of case, and very much true. And for certain people in the media talking about anti-corruption and anti-cronyism, like, you're nothing but liars. You're proven now to be liars. And myself and my family now are just deemed as collateral damage in an effort to kind of, like, keep a lid on this. Like, Waterford Garda needs to once and for all now to step up. This whole stigma that's going to be attached with Waterford Garda station of kind of like the misconduct involved, and this goes for Sinn Féin as well. The whole stigma and misconduct, like, are you really going to cover this up and cover this up and cover this up? And the same with Waterford Garda. Like, that's unfair to people who shouldn't have this stigma attached to them. Do you know what I mean? That's why I hate even saying Sinn Féin. Do you know what I mean? Because I felt Mr. Connacht should have been called out a long time ago. And I'm sure we'll hear him on the radio, as we always do. Every time I put a video up, we have to have a week of Mr. Connacht commenting on some kind of, like, bullshit on the radio that he has to have an opinion on, trying to keep himself relevant. And the fact of the matter is, he sent my wife a friend request. This was the same day that he fobbed me off. When I brought to his attention this psychologist and what my ex and his cronies were after do. But the only interest he had was protecting his cronies and trying to provoke me by sending me wife a friend request. And maybe there was another reason why you were sending me wife a friend request late at night, and that you have to pretend that it came from a fake profile, even though myself and my wife went through your profile and went through all your page, the same page that you answered me that day on. It's a shame that the same effort that has been put into harassing me and my family wasn't put into like having people housed and this kind of stuff, because this is where this kind of effort should have been. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure I'm making no friends here, but as I've been informed recently by a certain member of a certain family, apparently I'm not liked in the town. See? So if you want to be liked in the town, attach your name to a local charity, and that way you can leech off of that for the rest of your life. And potentially you might even have to work a day in your life. Like, where's the support for these whistleblowers? You hear about this talk down a couple of years ago there. Like, there's no support for any of these whistleblowers. I've been informed that it's too big and it can't be dealt with. Like, it's too corrupt. Now, this is all purposely made, as I said, and I understand this was always going to get to this. And it's after becoming so corrupt and so big. And if you notice, like, some of the stuff that's going around, like, it's so desperate to try and provoke me to try and cover this up. Like that whole incident with that clown there a couple of weeks ago, some of the shit that he brought up trying to provoke me, not only did it show that he's reading me messages, but it shows the level that they're willing to stoop in an effort to try and kind of like provoke certain people and intimidate certain people. So I'm trying to deal with all this on my own. I have my website up and running. I have to try and get back to that because I need to upload documents. So all of this is a learning curve to me. So I was going to like start off where I left off and showed Waterford councils how they messed up in 2017 to 2018 and how they illegally took a house back from us that we got the grant in, saying that me and my wife chose to move out and chose to leave the house. We chose to leave our clothes. We chose to continue paying the rent. We chose to leave our possessions. This is all lies. I have the paperwork showing that I was after making a complaint and it was supposed to be investigated. And I was going to continue from there, but I ended up like talking about all of this, so it's probably best that I just kind of leave it here, and in my next video I'll take it up from there. So I'll start talking about the timeline from 2018 onwards in my next video, And I hope this is not too kind of convoluted. It's just some things I needed to address. So I leave it there. Thanks.